Hey mamas, and welcome to the Entering Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Marie Bilger, a wife, mom of two, VBAC mama, and doula. Join us every episode to learn from professionals, special guests, and moms just like you, ensuring that you know what you need to know and discover things that you didn't know before. I believe in you. Let's doula this, and let's navigate the transition of entering motherhood together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Entering Motherhood. In this episode, we talk with Emily and Amanda, who are the co-hosts of Unfiltered and Unstoppable, which is an Instagram live series. We explore the challenges of parenting and the importance of normalizing taboo topics like postpartum sex and body image. This conversation highlights societal pressures on mothers, the impact of social media, and even what we see coming in terms of AI. And we also talk about the need for self-acceptance. Both of the guests share their personal stories and practical advice. They encourage moms to seek support, embrace their unique journeys, and celebrate the realities of motherhood without shame. This episode was actually recorded a while back, so the whole first season of Unfiltered and Unstoppable can actually be found on Instagram. This episode is one that you will want to listen to all the way through, so enjoy and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Entering Motherhood. I'm super excited to have both of you here. This is the first time I've ever kind of done double interview, so this is exciting. But how about you go ahead and introduce yourselves for the listeners? We had Amanda on a while ago, but now Emily is with us here. So how about Emily, you go first?
Okay, my name is Emily. I am a stay-at-home mom, a homeschooler, and a lifestyle content creator. I have two boys, ages 16 and 3, and Amanda and I met in a very unorthodox way. I saw a post of her amazing book, The New Mom Code, on Instagram and sent her a DM, and she was kind enough to send a copy to me. And then it just kind of got into daily DMs and conversations and then phone calls and FaceTimes, and we just kind of bonded, and that's where our new show, Unfiltered and Unstoppable, has come from.
And Amanda, do you gonna kind of do a little intro?
So I am the author of The New Mom Code, Shatter Expectations and Crush It at Motherhood. It just recently released on audiobook. So for all those new mamas out there who are not reading right now, but listening, it's a perfect place to listen. I'm also a curve model, a former TV journalist, and I am mom to George.
Very cool. So you guys have a show that you're doing together. How about you talk a little bit about that and how that came to be and what kinds of things that y'all talk about?
Our show is called Unfiltered and Unstoppable, and it is an Instagram live series that we do every Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And it basically goes through the first 8 chapters of The New Mom Code, which is my book. So we did skip one of the chapters, and one of them's chapter 12 in there, but the rest of them are like 1 through 7. But it talks about everything from breastfeeding to burnout to the importance of nature. And we also have one that's totally centered around, matrescence, right? Like, so all these new mom experiences and postpartum experiences that you have, especially related to self-love and self-care, which is also something that I feel like a lot of moms, they need that reminder that they're human too, and that they have needs, and those needs are important. Each week, like I said, we touch on one of the chapters of the book. And our first episode was awesome. We had Mara Martin, who is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. And she was the first model to walk the runway while breastfeeding.
While breastfeeding?
Yes,
or
while
like
breastfeeding.
physically as she was
Full on
walking?
physically breastfeeding.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Well, she told the funniest story, though, because she said that she was backstage. The show had gotten pushed back. She had expected to hand off her baby to her husband. And then they said, oh, showtime. And at that point, she'd already started breastfeeding. And she's like, if I pull the baby off, then I'm either going to squirt everywhere and the baby's going to start screaming. So what do you want me to do? And so she had talked to the producer, and the producer was like, well, just take the baby out there if that's what you're the most comfortable with. And so she sent her out on the runway while breastfeeding.
Oh my goodness.
It's
It's
amazing.
like, yeah, like it's crazy to think like, okay, like that just happened. And it's also like the things that we do as moms that you you don't think that it's gonna happen and then we're doing it.
She had over 500 million worldwide reactions from
Uh-huh.
this. It made a huge, huge mark in the world of breastfeeding and normalizing it and helping other moms to see, look, if I'm a beautiful model and I can walk down the runway in a bikini with the baby attached to my boobs, so can you. So,
I mean,
so
the great thing about the show that we're doing too is that Emily and I both connected so deeply over this idea of normalizing so many of the taboo topics surrounding motherhood, which is part of the reason why we felt like it was good to base it around my book, because my book is also talking about all of those things. We're going to be talking about postpartum sex. And that's one of those things that make moms feel all squirmy, and they are uncomfortable talking about it to each other. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it needs to be discussed and it needs to be normalized so that people feel like their experiences are not really unique, right? We get so uncomfortable about things. And so Emily and I just had this deep bond about wanting to empower moms and make them feel so much less alone in their experience of motherhood.
Yeah, I think that's so needed. And as many conversations that are out there, we need to just continue to have more. And I think it's one of those things like once you get talking about it, then more people just ripple effect and continue to talk about it. And it's really cool to see, like I don't think it could ever be a saturated conversation. I think it's like one of those things that like there's always uniqueness in everybody's story. And the more we kind of just continue to talk about different topics, the more it's then brought up in other people's conversations. And then it gives people permission to talk about that. And even if it's like your conversation is a conversation starter for some mom friends, or, they can share it or send it to somebody and be like, "Did you hear this? Like, what do you think about that?" Without having to like ask the awkward question or bring up the conversation. They're able to utilize it to then bring up whatever conversation they want to be kind of stirring up, if that makes sense.
yeah, and I feel like every topic kind of has its time where it evolves and it becomes more present in everything that we see and do. And I feel like this is the era of motherhood. This is the time frame where people like us are trying to normalize it or trying to talk more about the things that we deal with as women, not just with our partners or what our partners might go through, but what we actually deal with. Because most women, let's be honest, they don't tell their partner every single thing they're feeling after they've had a baby. They don't they feel that guilt. They feel like I have to keep this to myself, or they're not going to understand, or it's just easier not to talk about and just to deal with it and get through it. And you don't have to be that way, and it doesn't have to feel that way. And even if it's just listening to something like your podcast or our show or other things out there that are similar, or reading books like Amanda's, makes you feel like you're not alone. So even if you don't feel safe vocalizing every single strange feeling that you're having or every single weird thing that's happening to your body, you have a safe space where you're realizing, okay, I'm not alone in this. There are other women who are dealing with all of the exact same things that I am. And I think that that's really important, and I really do feel like that's the era that we're in right now, like motherhood and normalizing it and helping women to get through those things and knowing that they're not alone.
I mean, I thought it was crazy. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but the Surgeon General came out and said that 70% of parents are experiencing like extreme stress and overwhelm, which they've never really come out and said this type of thing before. So it is becoming like a health crisis to be a parent in today's day and age with this digital world that we're living in. And the more we are bombarded with messaging of perfectionism and I feel like the more we isolate ourselves and the more we need content that is very affirming of all the things that we're feeling and experiencing.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do with Unfiltered and Unstoppable. We're trying to bring on, throughout the chapters and what the chapters are based on, we're trying to bring on Amanda has been amazing with getting us some wonderful guests, some wonderful sponsors, and people who really relate to the material that we're covering in the chapters that we're doing in these 8 episodes that we've started with. So it's a labor of love. Neither one of us, crazily enough, have ever met in person. We just FaceTime all the time, text a million times a day.
You got to plan a trip to meet up.
I know we are. That's in our to-do list.
Yeah.
To-do list. We can't
Do
wait.
a live in-person episode.
I know. That's what we need to do. We're trying. Mother, you get so busy, but this thing has become such a priority for both of us, and we just love it. And we're just, getting to know each other, and I just adore her. And it's just been such a fun project to work on. And we're just hoping that as we keep going forward, we can reach more and more people with it.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you feel like most excited about, or what kind of taboo topic do you feel needs to be most emulated?
I honestly say the most taboo one is probably the sex. Let's be honest. Like, it is because I had C-sections. I had 2 C-sections. That doesn't mean I feel any sexier than a person that had a vaginal birth. Okay, let's be honest. And not only is it a hard thing to do, after the 6-week clearing period, which, let's be honest, it still does take your body longer to heal, takes you longer to heal mentally. It's improvement. It could take up to 1 to 2 years for you to fully physically and mentally heal from having a baby. And having to breach that with your partner. I mean, 6 weeks is a long time, but
It's not, though. That's the thing.
it's not when
People
you
say
had
it's
a
a long
baby.
time, and I'm like, 6 weeks, you're so strung out and sleep deprived,
Let me
and you
say to
gotta
my husband, it's a long time. Let's say that. To me, I could care less. After I had the baby, I could have cared less for 6 weeks. Okay, it doesn't matter to me. I could care less.
I do think sex is probably number 1, but I think that postpartum body is probably number 2. So, I would say for sure that I want to convey this message to a lot of women that you're actually more beautiful than the body you had before. All this amazing work of, growing a child inside of you and giving birth, and all of the things that are happening are a transformation. I mean, we talked about in our first episode briefly about matrescence, but matrescence is an anthropologically studied phenomenon where a woman, after giving birth, changes spiritually, emotionally, hormonally, and it's equivalent to the developmental push of adolescence. You become a different person after you have a baby. And I think a lot of moms don't understand they have this baby and they're like, oh, I don't feel like myself anymore. This is weird. And they feel shameful about that. Like they should just bounce back. So whether it's bounce back culture when it's surrounded around your body, or it's also bounce back behavior, right? Like think you're just going to be the person you were before. And the reality is that motherhood fundamentally changes both of those aspects. And the more we can normalize that as being a beautiful transition and a normal transition, I feel like the sooner moms will start to feel confidence in their motherhood journey. Because a lot of times there's all this cultural pushback to bounce back, quote unquote. And you're not going to bounce back because if you bounce back, you wouldn't have a baby. Right? So it drives me crazy that we have this sense of you're supposed to be who you were, because isn't the whole point of having a journey and living a life is that you're growing and you're moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So the sooner we get to a place where women's bodies are glorified in all sizes, shapes, forms, scars, whatever it may be, the sooner we'll be in a place where women will feel empowered being wherever they are at that moment, not always needing to seek to be thinner or curvier or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Well, and I hate the term baby weight or pregnancy weight. Do you know what I mean? Because it's said like it's such a negative thing. Like, "Oh, you're still holding on to 20 pounds of that baby weight," or you're thinking in your head, "Oh, I need to get rid of this baby weight," or whatever, and like Amanda said, it should be normalized to where it's a beautiful thing, and you can get back to wherever you need to be health-wise when you can do it and when you're ready for it. That doesn't mean that you're not beautiful, and that doesn't mean that you didn't just accomplish something amazing. I mean, you just created a human being. And I think that's so forgotten in our culture. I feel like hundreds of years ago, having a child was such a huge thing because not only did the mother make it through the birth, but you ended up with a healthy child if you were lucky. And today it's such a normalized thing that people don't recognize what amazing thing you just accomplished. And forget about the weight, forget about all of that stuff. You brought life into this world and it's just not recognized the way that it should be.
Yeah, and I like how you said, like, all different bodies and things too, because I think sometimes that comparison comes into play, and there are people that, don't change too much physically except maybe their belly, and then they do have that baby, and they're back almost to being how they are, and like, shame that as well too, like, how could you just, you know, go right back to how you are, like, "Oh my gosh, like, look at you, like, you just, look exactly like you did before you had the baby," and I think, that's putting something on those people as well of, like, "N no, like, I did have my baby and, like, sorry, I didn't gain that much weight," or anything like that, and I think it kind of, like, goes both ways, like, when we're looking and comparing and saying, like, "How could that person almost look like they didn't have a baby and they did?" It's the same thing of, like, how have you not lost that baby weight or whatever it might be, and just, like, understanding that we're all going to look and be different afterwards in, like, our own ways, and, like, some people might get stretch marks and other people don't, and, like, to be like, "Oh, like, you're so lucky, like, you didn't get any stretch marks," that might be hurtful to that person because maybe they did wanna get stretch marks or they did wanna have, signs that they had their baby or, lingering bits of their pregnancy. And it could be hard to, like, look down and not have a belly anymore when you were just carrying a baby. So I think it's just, like, understanding and knowing that, like, everybody's on our own journey and own experience, and we're all just kind of in it.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I agree with you so much. I feel like you had said, it is so important to just normalize so many different sizes and shaped bodies and, differences between our bodies. Because the problem is that we are fed a very specific image of like what beautiful should be. And that's what I think fundamentally needs to change. Right? Is I think that idea of what beautiful is needs to be more than, quote unquote, skin deep. From a cultural standpoint, we are still so wrapped up in how things look that we forget to dig deeper. And I think it's going to take a lot of conversations. It's going to take a lot of advertising companies moving in a different direction for us to see that overall shift where people can feel really confident in their own bodies no matter what that looks like.
I think she's right. And I think that unfortunately, that's still going to take some time because when you talk about companies and businesses that want to promote things, a lot of them still just want to promote beauty to their definition of beauty. Let's be honest. All women are beautiful. all people are beautiful in their own ways. Everyone's different. And I feel like to change the dynamic of it, we have to change the culture and the way that companies approach beauty and motherhood and women and all of these different things. And I feel like some are starting to grasp onto that concept and starting to embrace it. And I see that more and more. But I feel like there is still a lot of them that are very behind.
I was going to say the one good thing too, and the one thing you can do as a consumer is put your money behind those brands that are doing that. So it's going to take a cultural shift in beauty for that to really happen because companies are more open to it, right? We need to see it more often. But if they can't prove that people are still going to buy, the narrative will never change. So we just
Mhm.
have to keep trying to put our money behind those brands and supporting those people who are having those conversations, doing those campaigns, and showing, the diversity that is involved with it.
Yeah. How do you feel things are going to pivot and change with the advancement of AI and all the, I guess, fun it can bring into this
I
realm
mean, do you
of
want me to
things?
take this one, Emily? I I
Yeah,
can
I'll
I
let you
can tell you
start.
from I can tell you from my industry standpoint that it is going to be very interesting in the next 5 years
Mm.
because I have already seen a shift in how companies are approaching certain campaigns. For example, Levi's has started using AI models for some of their e-commerce products. So the AI is so good that you can't really tell whether or not it's a person or not a person. And so it's going to get very tricky, right, when it comes to what we see in advertising. It may also be really weird because, not weird, but we may also get a shift where beauty will be perceived differently because when you have an online shopping experience, now you won't be looking at a model in the clothes, you'll be looking at yourself in the clothes. So that's also going to change how people view this idea of what beauty is because now they're getting to be the model for the clothes as well. And they get to see how things fit on their body size and shape.
I think the concept of being able to see yourself in a product is a very cool concept because let's be honest, most people buy online. You hope people start to go more to brick and mortar and they start to shop in stores, but a lot of people don't have time or they don't want to fight the crowds. So being able to try things on online and be able to see what it would actually look on you before you buy it is a good tool. I personally think AI is a horrible invention. Now, I know it can be very useful in marketing certain things, but I think when it comes to body image and when it comes to actually using it with people, I do not care for it because it just creates this false reality. And I mean, that's what it is, artificial intelligence. So I just feel like it can hurt people more than it can help them. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping that the companies that do start to use it embrace it. But I don't know. I think, like Amanda said, it's going to be interesting over the next few years to see how they use it and how they implement it. I think that's what the biggest thing is with AI is how they decide to use it and for what reason and for what good.
Yeah, I never thought about seeing the clothes or, like online shopping with myself because I've used it for glasses. So there's a lot of the websites that you can purchase glasses from. It takes a picture of your face and then you can see what they look like on you virtually. And I've
Mhm.
actually really liked that because you can flip through the pictures that they have and think like, oh, like that looks good on that person, but you don't get like a feel for what it actually looks like on you. And then obviously, like when you're going into a store, you can try on the clothes, you can see what it looks like on you, but it's like completely different if you are like purchasing something and you see that, person that looks good in that outfit. And then, you get it for yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't like this color on me, or like I don't like this fit or this style. And so, like, it does kind of blend going back to, like, going shopping in person and being able to do that at home because I think sometimes it can be hard, immediately postpartum to go out and go shop and try on clothes and get comfortable in your own body, but maybe to be able to do that from the comfort of your own home and not have to like be disappointed going out and trying on all these things, you can kind of like see like, oh, that might look good, or like maybe I should try that. So yeah, it's like it does have like goods and bads of things, but I can see how it can really shift and change just our experience of shopping or
Totally.
finding things. And
I
yeah.
mean, even Walmart, I don't know if you've shopped online with them before, but they have made steps already where they have about, I want to say maybe 6 different models, and they pick different sizes, different heights, and then you can put the clothes on all of those different types of models based on their body type and their height. But I think, they've probably done a lot better than other retailers because they are giving you the option of seeing that same item on multiple different body sizes and shapes. But, AI is crazy. I will say, like, even for me, and this was, if I even rewind 5 years ago, when it came to airbrushing and retouching, sometimes I would see myself in a campaign and I would walk by it and didn't realize that it was me
Mm.
because it was so airbrushed, right? So they had changed, you give away when you are a model, you kind of sign away your likeness. So if they're like, oh, her nose is a little too skinny or a little too fat, they can make my nose smaller. Or, they can get rid of every single wrinkle in my face. And unfortunately, like Emily said, I think that's doing a big disservice to everyday women, right? Because we're seeing an image that is created by a computer, not an image that exists in real life. So even if that's me, right? Like I know that's a picture of me, right? It's not me, right? It's not the accurate representation of how I look in real life. And that is one of the things that scares me about AI is if you talk about an app like Facetune, which I refuse to download and refuse to use. However, I know it's something that a lot of my friends and a lot of teenagers use, and they go in and they change their nose and their forehead and their hair and their eyebrows and their lips, and they post those pictures online. And there becomes such a disconnect between when they look in the mirror and their social media page that
Yeah.
they get a lot of like body dysmorphia.
Mm.
And the more we see these fabricated images of ourselves, the less likely we are going to be able to move forward in terms of feeling empowered and loving the bodies that we actually have.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
know I've struggled with since my son is 3, and, like, I've definitely struggled with my body this time around postpartum than with my daughter. Because with my daughter, like, I felt great, and I feel like I was just moving a lot more, and I was, happy with things, and it's definitely been more of a struggle, and I don't like being in pictures or seeing myself or going on social media as often now because I'm, like, not happy with how I look, and it's hard to do that when, I'm just comparing against myself, and so, like, even if it's just 1 baby or multiple babies, like, maybe with your 1st or 2nd or however many kids you had, like, it was a different experience, and now this time around, it's different, and it's not. Yeah, it's definitely been hard and a struggle to see myself because I feel good. I feel like I, like, look a certain way and I'm, like, able to, like, be in person and then, like, I'll see, like, a video or, like, a picture of somewhere that I was at and I'm like, "Oh, like, that's not me." Like, I don't see that as me. And so it's definitely been a lot of, like, disconnect and processing of, but, like, I feel this way, but when I see images of myself and so, like, it makes me not want to be in the picture or take photos with my kids and things like that, and that can be really hard because you wanna be able to remember those moments. You wanna be able to, have pictures of you holding them or be with them and remember those moments, but it's hard when you don't want to see those images.
I feel that 100% because I'll think to myself, okay, I've lost a few pounds. I'm feeling good. I feel good. Like my clothes feel good. Feel good. And then like you, I'll see myself in a video or I'll see myself in a picture and I'm like, okay, I don't like that. Like, that's not what I want to look like, and you don't want to think badly or down on yourself, and you don't want to think that you're not beautiful, and it's not that I don't think that, or it's not that I think that, but it is kind of a shock when you have a certain mental image, which it's a good thing to have that positive feeling about yourself and to feel good about yourself, but then it is kind of like you hit a brick wall when you look at yourself in a picture or a video and you disapprove of the way you look and it's not what you think in your head. So
Mhm.
it messes with your head and it starts to put all of those doubts in your brain like, oh my gosh, I need to lose 20 pounds there. I need to lose 10 pounds there. Like, I don't like this. And it's such a hard contradiction between how you feel about yourself when you're not staring at yourself on a constant basis. And then when you actually see yourself in a still or a video and you get a different feeling about yourself and it makes you feel down about yourself. So, and honestly, like a lot of times, even if you were at your target weight or your whatever that might mean for you, people are going to pick out things about themselves that they don't like. And I think the root of it and the core of it is being confident with who you are as a person, trying really hard not to focus as much on your physical appearance, but your mental health, your relationships and just who you are as a person. And I feel like the rest of it will eventually fall into place. But as long as you're confident in those things and knowing that body image and the way you look to everyone all the time, you don't have to always have makeup on. You don't always have to look perfect. I have my pajamas on underneath this cardigan just so you know I dressed up for you. It's just being confident in yourself, I think, has to really be promoted first, and it's just not, and it's not taught enough, and like Amanda said, with these apps and how you can change your body size and your body shape and all of these things is doing such a huge disservice to not only young women, but women our own age that I'm sure use it. It's just something that I don't see getting any better, but I hope that it can. But when you keep having these inventions coming out and these different things to change the reality of who you really are, it's so hard on these girls, and I hate that for them.
The one thing I also talk about in my book's awful comparison loop. But you have to remember that marketers wouldn't have anything to sell if you believed that you were good enough. So it always comes down to the same thing of you have to be able to differentiate between what's out there and what you internally experience. But it is constantly a battle. There is no way wakes up every morning and is like, "I'm beautiful the way I am today," right? Like, it's just not possible, right? Because we're constantly being bombarded with messaging from multiple different types of industries that we're not good enough in some way, right? We're not taking the right health products. We're not taking the right supplements. We're not, wearing the right brands. It could be it could be anything that we're targeted for to just feel not good enough. So, for me, I have to have an internal dialogue with myself all the time when it comes to affirmations and looking at my body in a certain way. The other thing I talk about in my book is trying to look at the changes in your body as representations of resilience and strength. So every time I start picking on myself, I'm like, nope, that's a mom gem. And I call them all my mom jewelry, right? So that little extra, roll on the side, nope, that's my mom gem. That's my mom jewelry, right? So it's having to label these things that you think of as, negative body image representations. You have to label them and then try to put them into something positive, because I feel like that's the only way that you start to win the battle of having a body positive experience.
What other words of wisdom or tips or tricks would you want moms that are either currently pregnant or newly postpartum to take with them today from this episode?
One thing I would say, everyone wants to give you advice, very unsolicited advice. Everyone wants to tell you what you're going to expect, how you should be. And my biggest piece of advice would be to try to block that all out and just enjoy and experience your own journey and know that every birth is different, every pregnancy is different, every aftermath of everything is different for everyone, and try not to compare yourself to other people. Reading books like Amanda is like, when I read it, I felt seen and I felt every single thing in every single chapter. And that's not comparing my experience to other people necessarily, but it's realizing that I'm not alone in the things that I was going through. So I knew that my journey was different to being a mother, to how I became a mom. I knew that my births were different than other people's. I knew that my after experiences had elements that were probably different from other people. But in general, as a mom, and when you become a mom, you do have a lot of things in common with other people. But to still not, to try your best not to compare yourself in any way, shape, or form to other people, because everyone, just like everyone's body is different, everyone's experience is different, and there's nothing wrong with your experience and what you're going through, and that it doesn't last forever. If you're having a hard time, I told Amanda there were so many nights I was making coffee and I was standing there at my kitchen counter saying, "It won't be like this forever. It won't be like this forever." And I would just, that was like my mantra. I would say when I was having a hard night or a hard day, "It won't be like this forever." But you also want to cherish those moments, because as hard as they are, those are the beginning days, and those are some of the times you're going to remember the most. But yeah, just to try not to compare yourself to other people and just try to enjoy it as much as you can.
I think for me, mine would actually be it's okay to not be okay. So I think a lot of all this pressure of having to be the perfect mom and do all the things. And at the end of the day, that means that typically they're uncomfortable asking for help when they need help. For me, I felt like it was so important to ask for that help. And it made such a difference in my entire entry into motherhood by having the help of my mom, by going and seeing a therapist, by asking my psychiatrist for anti-anxiety medication, right? Because I was experiencing so much postpartum, but I felt so shameful that I was having the experience that I was. Like I said, I think the number one piece of advice I always try to give moms is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to talk about the things that feel really uncomfortable.
That postpartum is big. It really is, because I've always felt guilty when I had my first son, and I think it's because everything happened very quickly. I had preeclampsia, which if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's a condition that makes your blood pressure skyrocket. I was on bed rest for 4 months. I had a 0 salt diet, no salt at all. I was miserable, and then I went in for my regular weekly checkup. My blood pressure was high. They said, "Okay, we're gonna send you over to the hospital. We're gonna monitor you for a few hours. We'll induce if, nothing goes down." I'm literally in the room for 15 minutes, and my doctor and a bunch of nurses rush in and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna have a baby right now." So everything happened very quickly, very traumatically. So when they first handed him to me after I woke up, I didn't feel anything. And I felt so guilty for that. And I still do to this day, but I didn't feel like that instant crying, happy, like feeling. I felt nothing. I felt very numb. And I think it was just because I was still processing what had just happened, because I had expected to go home that day. I didn't expect for all of that to happen. So allowing, yeah, like she said, it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to have those feelings, because of course later, of course I loved him. I love him so much, and he's my 16-year-old, and I still try to cuddle with him, and he doesn't want me to, but he's still my baby. But yeah, it was a huge thing for me postpartum wise, was actually having to admit to my doctor that I was having those feelings and I was not okay. And a lot of women ignore their postpartum because of guilt, like Amanda said, or because they don't want to admit that they're having a problem. And almost every woman goes through, I would say not even almost, I would say every woman goes through some type of postpartum. It might present itself differently, but I think everyone deals with it. and it's okay to talk. You have to talk to your doctor or someone. You can't do it alone. It's like, it's like any type of depression. You can't do it alone. And there's nothing wrong with taking medication or doing what you need to do to get you through that hard time.
Yeah, I think it's so huge, for you sharing that and really emulating, your experience and your journey, because that is something that we typically see people not sharing or hiding. And it's one of those things where it's like, do we need to tell everybody that, that asked about our birth, how was your birth or whatever, or like, how is motherhood? You don't need to share it with everybody, but I think it's so important to share it with somebody and to just open up about it and to let somebody in your life know that you're going through these things or that you're having those thoughts or that you're feeling these things, because you don't have to do it alone. And it's so important to remember that. So where can we reach you, get in contact with you? Are you both just live on Instagram for the shows and then collaborating? And
So yeah, you can either find our live shows at Amanda Tice, which is me, or on Emily's page, which is Stay at Home Mom Has a Lot Going On, which is SAHM, right? Has a lot going on.
I went with the long name.
Yeah. But if you also want to find us online, you can go to unfilteredandunstoppable.com. And that will take you to like the show overview, the guests that we have coming up, and which topics we're going to be covering. It also has links to our Instagram pages so you know where to find the show. So, and then for me, if you want to find the New Mom Code, which is my book, you can find it on Amazon, and it's now exclusively available on Audible. So if you're more of a listening mom, that is definitely the place to get it.
And you can also email us if you have any questions for our guests, for sponsorships, for anything like that at hellounfiltered@yahoo.com.
awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking and having this conversation.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you. This was fun.
Thank you, mamas, so much for listening. Remember, you are a rock star. I believe in you. Let's doula this. Let's crank it up a notch and let's kick it into high gear together. Hit that subscribe button. Share this episode with a friend. Message me, email me, call me, beat me. You know how to reach me. We're doing this, mamas. I am so excited to catch you here next week. This is your one-stop go-to place for helping you find the resources you need to make the best choices for you and your family during pregnancy, birth, and most importantly, postpartum. See you later, mamas.